Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Rust Belt Startup. I'm your host, Ryan Miller, and Rust Belt Startup is typically a podcast that focuses on long-form conversations with artists, entrepreneurs, people that are living unconventional lives in unconventional locations. And in between those conversations, I tend to put out what are called toolbox episodes, and this is going to be one of those. It's more of a shorty, and this one's all about your data. Well, it's really all about my data, but maybe it's about your data too. And I want to talk today about the amount of data that is out there and on you, and who owns it, and what do you do with it? What can you do with it, and what are other people doing with it? This is really something that I've just been kind of playing around with over the last several weeks of trying to think about my digital footprint. And, I think by and large, I'm reasonably conscious of the things that I post to social media. I always know, or at least I feel like I have an idea of what's out there, and especially the things that I'm sharing topically and otherwise. And, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think there's a lot of stuff out there that I'm worried about, but it has made me really think about the sheer amount of data that's out there about me. And as I really used a lot of social media very heavily, 7-8 years ago. I was posting daily to Facebook, to Instagram, Twitter, and I've since really kind of pulled back from that activity. I rarely use them as platforms to publish on, but there's still a lot of stuff out there that I've done over the years, and I want to take my data back. And so I wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I've been doing and learning over this process of trying to think about how do I take more control of my data? How do I use these platforms and devices as tools rather than letting them use me? So let's start at the beginning. About a year ago, I went through and started using Google Takeout. Google Takeout is basically a place on Google where you can log in and you can find all the information, or at least what they're sharing with you, that Google has on you, your account, your data, everything from your calendar, your browsing history. If you use Google Maps, all of your location data. I turned the location data off probably 7 or so years ago. But before that, when I first got an iPhone, I used Google Maps. And it had basically every location I had ever been to timestamped. You could literally follow my life from place to place, from vacation to commute. And it was crazy, the amount of data that was there. And so I was able to turn that off several years ago, and I don't share that location data anymore. But you can go through using Google Takeout and take a look at or take out the things that Google has on you, at least see some of the detail that you have. So absolutely recommend checking that out on a periodic level. So you can go to takeout.google.com, log in, and you can kind of scroll through and see all of the different things that are out there, many of which I'm sure you probably don't even know that you had. So you can go through one by one and enable or disable and download some of the data that Google has. Let's talk about the big three. Let's talk about Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I started this process probably about a year ago, where I went into Facebook and they allow you to download your data. And so I did that. I requested my data, and about a day later, I was able to download a zip file. It was around 1 gigabyte of data. And I downloaded it to my server at home, which is kind of where I archive all of my stuff. And I unzipped it and just kind of started exploring. And, two things came into my mind. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of data out there. And I'm glad that I now have it. And so when I think about, the amount of stuff that could be done with that data in terms of, and what Facebook is doing with that data, it's pretty astounding. You think about when you look through it, it's every friend that you have. It's every article that you've ever posted, every link you've ever shared, every comment you've ever made, every message in Messenger, every like, everything, the groups that you belong to, the groups that you belonged to. So all of this data is available in this zip file, all of your photos. And in some ways, that's cool, right? That's why we signed up for social media, to in some ways document our lives or share our lives with others. But when you think about the complete, comprehensive package that Facebook has on you in terms of not just your interest graph, but your social graph, the people that you know, the topics that you care about, you can really see when you start exploring this data how comprehensive it is. Even thinking about things like the way that you write, the words that you use, the verbs that you use, the nouns that you use, you can get a pretty detailed picture of someone. And they don't make it easy to delete that data. That's the other downside of this, is that there's no good way, at least that I found right now, to delete that data. So I've been, over the past year plus, literally starting at the very beginning, I've taken and downloaded the archive of my data. And so I've got it, right? There it is for posterity. If you ever want to see everything I've ever posted to Facebook, I've got it in a browsable format. But I'm also now just kind of batching the deletion of my Facebook account. I really don't have a desire right now to just delete the account for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't know what happens with that data once that is deleted. If it's deleted, how long it's held. But also, I just feel like, Facebook has brought real value to me in terms of the network and the ways that I can share with all different circles of people in my life and acquaintances. So I want to keep the network. I just don't want Facebook to have all my data. And so over the last year, I've started just deleting stuff in a bulk fashion, taking a half hour here, a half hour there, and just deleting content. It is incredibly arduous. But I think it's an important step, for me anyway, at not just taking my data back, but kind of providing in some way a digital reset. Like, I still plan on sharing some things on Facebook, but I like this idea of spring cleaning. Now, the problem is I'm spring cleaning a decade of posts, but my intention is to kind of wipe everything out until the beginning of 2021, and then we'll start again. And then I'll wipe that out, and I'll start again. Let's talk about Twitter and Instagram. The same kinds of things happen. You can request your data in each of those apps, in the Twitter app and in the Instagram app. And it takes a little bit of time, but they'll send you a link to a zip file. And you can download that zip file, so you can have all of these tweets and this data. You can see not only what they have, but you can kind of archive it for posterity. And so what I did is I downloaded all my Twitter data. And, you can look at it in an offline fashion. You can look at every single tweet you've ever tweeted, and that includes your retweets. You can see every like. You can see the accounts that you've blocked, the accounts that you've muted, all of your list data. There's quite a bit there. And Twitter's gotten a lot of people in trouble over the years as well. And I try to think about, I don't have the same posterity reaction with Twitter. Like, I don't really care about my tweets. What was I tweeting about 8 years ago? I really don't care about those things. And so I used a service called Tweet Delete, and it was they charge you. There's a free tier, but if you pay, I think it's $20. It will go through via an API, and it will one by one remove all of your tweets based on certain criteria. So I basically said, same thing with Facebook. Hey, Tweet Delete, go from the beginning of time and remove every tweet that I've ever tweeted until January 1st of 2021. And the reason I want to do that is I just want to start clean. I don't want to give up my my followers, the people that I'm following, my lists. But I do feel like that's my data. I don't want that stuff out there forever. There's probably something out there that I'm, less than proud of tweeting, especially or retweeting. Maybe not. I don't know, but it doesn't hold, those past tweets don't really hold a lot of value for me. And so I downloaded that data, and then I'm wiping that all clean. If you actually go to my profile, I still have all of my follower counts and all of my followers, but I've wiped everything before January 2021. Now let's talk about Instagram. Same thing. This was a little freaky too, because I downloaded the Instagram account and you know, I was looking, it's like 10 years ago. There's a picture of me, my first post Instagram, and I look 10 years younger, and it's just a selfie that was taken, and that was my first Instagram post. And you know, Instagram data is very interesting. So you can request all of it. My Instagram data was almost 700 megabytes of data. And it includes a lot of very interesting things. So yes, I wanted the Instagram data, not just to comb through it, but there was a little posterity here. I don't know if I actually saved all of my filtered Instagram posts to my photo library, and some of them I'm really proud of. But if you look in there and you open up that zip file, there's some freaky stuff in there, and I want to talk to you guys about a couple of the things that I have seen. So I can literally look through all of these photos or these folders in that data in that zip file, and here's some of the things that I can see. And by the way, if I can see them, that means that Instagram has them, and they've had them, which means Facebook has them. So correlate Instagram data to Facebook data, and it gets pretty scary. So some of the folder names that you get when you download your Instagram archive include ads and content. So that means the ads that you have viewed, suggested accounts viewed, videos watched, comments, every post comment that you have ever made is in this HTML document. Your comment settings, your contacts, your a list of all of your archived posts, so things that you maybe don't even have publicly that are archived, you can still access those. Stories that have been archived, Instagram stories that have been archived. Device information. What cameras have you used? What kinds of devices have you used to post to Instagram? So that means, the app, the device ID, and the logins. So you can really dig back and see all of those devices. Anything that you've done in terms of liking, which is kind of crazy. Every like that you've put on someone else's photo, like, you can see all that stuff. You can even see some of the data on this folder called Information About You. And it says there are two files there: accounts based in, which gives you your location, and then ads interests. This is kind of crazy too. So if you click the ads interest file, it's showing that I'm interested in entrepreneurship, hotels, golf, camping, photography, adventure travel, mountains, marketing, parties, sales, luxury real estate, graphic design, friendship management, a lot of stuff that Instagram is saying you're probably interested in based on your engagement data. So you can go kind of crazy with this. The Instagram data, I think, is some of the ones that freak me out the most. So you can browse all of these folders in addition to having the posts that you have taken. You can obviously access those for posterity, but you can look at basically anything you've ever done on Instagram. So when you think about liking something, making a comment on something, any activity, that stuff is not temporary. That stuff is like part of Instagram's permanent record. Think of this. I mean, well, you can see the size of the database that of just my stuff on Instagram is big. It's almost a gigabyte, and so it's really made me stop to think about not only what I post, but where I post it, how I post it, when I post it, and what's the value of that. So. There's the old adage, if you don't know what the product is, you're the product. And I think that is very, very true when it comes to these social networks and the data that's associated with it. So, what's the value of that archive? For me, certain social media archives, I think it's going to hold some value. I think, looking at some of the things that I was interested in or the articles that I shared may hold some value down the road. But I want that data to be my data. And so I'm starting this practice of, right now it's a monumental task, but I believe it'll be easier as I do this year on year, which is basically I'm downloading that data and I'm then going to delete it. And that data is my data. And so I hope you take a look at some of this stuff too. I would love to hear from you guys. Have you looked at your data before? Do you know what's out there? Have you downloaded the archives and browsed through them? And what do you think about this? Are you concerned about it? Do you have any practices around trying to take back that data? I would love to hear. And I'm hoping to continue this conversation, or monologue, I guess, really around the value of your data and where's the puck going. I think that there's some very interesting things happening where we're going to start seeing things like paid versions of applications for services that maybe protect your privacy a little bit more. Paid search, paid social media. I can see those things happening. And then how do things like the blockchain factor into this? Decentralized social networks. And then what happens if you start getting your data on blockchain, which really, that stuff's out there. It is immutable. It cannot be changed. It cannot be deleted. What are the long-term implications of that? There's a lot of stuff to dig into, and I've been having fun starting to research that. But I wanted to share just this discovery phase with you guys and let you know that this is something I'm very interested in, and I've been enjoying downloading, digesting, and deleting some of the stuff that I think is mine and not Facebook's. So I hope you have a great week. I'm going to continue this conversation. I have a couple of different other shorty episodes in the works on data and maybe where data is going. But I wanted to share this with you and hopefully get you to take a look at where your data is, what's out there, what it's doing, and I hope that you start to take a little bit more control of your data. So I'll see you next time. Have a great day.